She was on the couch with her laptop when I came in with takeout and a real plan. I set the bag on the counter, pulled 2 plates, and said, "Get dressed." I booked us a table at that new place on Maple. Patio, live music. We haven't done a night out in months. Maya didn't look up. Not interested. Rain check? It's Friday. No. She clipped, still typing. I'm tired. And that scene isn't me anymore. Us. I corrected, keeping my tone even. That scene isn't us anymore. She finally met my eyes. I don't owe you a date just because you planned one. I didn't say oh. I said want. I leaned on the counter. Do you want time with me? She shut the laptop halfway. You're overthinking. I'm offering dinner. Pass. She reopened the laptop. Heat your own food. I'm not hungry. I stood there a moment, then slid the takeout back into the bag. Got it. She didn't ask where I was going when I grabbed my keys. The door clicked behind me, and I stared at my car in the twilight, thinking this was either a rough patch or the opening bell. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have skipped straight to the part where I stopped trying to sell sunshine to someone who's pulling the blinds. I drove to the gym, put in a quiet hour, showered there, and texted Maya on the way home. Kitchen's yours in the morning. I'll be out early. Then I booked a Saturday carpentry slot at my buddy Luis's workshop and sent a calendar invite to Maya. Not a request. A statement. I'd be using my time elsewhere if we were playing this distant routine. At home she was in bed, turned away. I put the takeout in the fridge, wrote a note. Lunch for tomorrow. Don't starve yourself. And left it on the counter. No speech about feelings. Just facts. That was the first small shift. If attention had become a ration, I'd be the one holding the ledger from now on. In the morning, she hovered by the coffee maker. You're going out? Yep. Shop time. Building a bench for the porch. We don't need a bench. I do. I poured coffee, slid the travel lid on. Want anything before I go? She scratched the rim of her mug. You're making a thing out of nothing. Nothing has a shape. I told her. That shape keeps saying not interested. I'm just listening. Don't be dramatic. I'm being practical. See you tonight. I kissed her cheek. She didn't move. I hit the door without a second pass. That afternoon, I texted her sister, Emily. She and I always got along. She's one of those people who notices details and doesn't turn them into gossip. I asked if she had time for a coffee. She said yes in under a minute. We met at a small place next to the farmer's market. She was in a jean jacket and a messy bun, flipping through a planner with multicolored tabs. What's up? She asked. You never ask for advice. That's usually my department. I took the stool across from her. Maya's been cold for a bit. I tried planning, gifts, extra chores. The lights are on, but nobody's home. Thoughts from the family historian. Emily watched me a second. Are you okay with honesty? Why else would I ask you? She goes through phases. When she feels restless, she detaches. Emily tugged at a paper clip. It doesn't mean you did something wrong. It means she's chasing a feeling. What feeling? Winning, Emily said. She likes to feel hard to reach. That's not a relationship. That's a game show. I know. Emily sighed. If you chase, she'll run. If you stop, she might pivot. But I don't want to be unfair to her. She also worries she settled too quickly. She's brought up her ex a few times around me lately. Brought him up how? Like he represents a version of her life that was more exciting. It's nostalgia. She filters out the rough parts. I drummed my fingers once and made a decision. Okay. I stop with the extras. I set boundaries. Anything else? 2 things, Emily said, voice careful. Be clear about your standards, not needy about your needs. And don't make me the middleman. I'm not passing messages. Wouldn't ask you to. I finished my coffee. Thanks. For what it's worth, you're good at this. I'm good at reading my sister, she said. I just hope she reads you back. On my way out, I sent Maya a text. Sunday. I'm spending the afternoon with Luis. You're welcome to join for dinner after 6 if you feel like it. If not, no hard feelings. No guilt. No chase. Late Sunday, she made the first soft move. She came into the kitchen with a plate of brownies and a tentative smile. I baked, she said, setting them down like a peace offering. Thanks. I cut a square, tried a bite. They're good. She leaned on the counter. About Friday. I was stressed from work. Okay, I said. I didn't mean to blow you off. You did blow me off, I answered. Meaning happened. Are we going to be weird now? No. I'm going to be straightforward. I rinsed the knife. I won't chase you for basic time together. If you want to plan something, I'm there. If not, I use my time well. Her eyes narrowed. So I'm being punished. It's not punishment, Maya. It's allocation. I'm not a calendar invite, she snapped. Then stop acting like a no-show. She looked like she wanted to fight, then pivoted. Movie later? She offered, softer. I can pick something you like. Sure, I said, and we actually had an easy 90 minutes. Small talk, no heavy topics. I let myself think maybe this was a corner turned. Monday through Wednesday, she oscillated. A joke in the morning, a shrug at dinner, nothing after. Thursday evening, she walked in swinging her car keys. By the way, she said, Mom wants you to come to dinner this weekend. They want to finally meet you. Great, I said. Say Saturday. I'll bring a bottle of sparkling water or something safe. She smiled thinly. Don't overdo it. Meeting the parents is overdoing it now? She rolled her eyes. Just be yourself. They like steady guys. Steady I can do, I said, but a thought turned in my head. Steady didn't mean invisible. Saturday night, I ironed a shirt, grabbed flowers for her mom, and we drove to her parents' place. Suburbs, tidy yard, wind chimes. The front door opened before we rang. Her mom, Patricia, hugged me like she'd been waiting. Her dad, Frank, shook my hand, firm grip, curious eyes. Emily was already there, leaning in the doorway with that half-amused, half-concerned look she gets when she's bracing for impact. Dinner was homey. Roast chicken, salad, a bowl of green beans with slivered almonds. We sat, made small jokes. Frank asked about my work. I talked about project deadlines and why clients panic on Tuesdays. Patricia asked about our place. I described the porch and the bench I'd just built. Her eyebrows went up. You made it? She asked. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's ours. Frank clapped once. Good hands. Maya picked at her salad. When I told a short story about a dog that wanders into the shop every afternoon, she smirked. Your life is cute, she said. Frank chuckled, not catching the edge. Cute is underrated. Emily shot me a warning glance. She felt the temperature change too. I shrugged lightly. I wasn't embarrassed by a normal life. Patricia asked how we met. I told it simple. Maya interrupted every third sentence with corrections that didn't matter. It was Thursday, not Friday. And it was Thai, not burgers. And it wasn't raining. By the fifth interjection, I put my napkin back on my lap. You can tell it if you want, I told her. She stabbed a green bean. It's whatever. Frank poured iced tea. So, football or baseball? He wanted to steer us away from rocks. I picked football. He relaxed. We rode that ease for 10 minutes. Then Patricia mentioned old friends from Maya's high school days. Names stirred dust. Maya leaned back. You know who would have loved this roast? She said to her mom. Jason. He always went back for seconds. Frank's fork froze midair. Emily glanced down at her plate. I took a sip of water and waited. Patricia smiled politely. I'm sure he did. Jason had great taste, Maya continued, as if she didn't see the room stiffen. He took me to the best places. He just knew what worked. I set my glass down. Frank, tell me about that grill you built, I said, giving her an off-ramp. Maya kept going. Jason's stories were wild. He could walk into a room and Emily cut in. Maya, what? Maya shrugged, too casual. Frank looked at me, embarrassed on her behalf. Patricia folded her hands. Emily tried again. Read the room. Maya rolled on. I'm just saying, I had a different kind of life with him. A bigger one. If there was a chance to go back, if he called me right now, I'd go. Silence. Even the wind chimes outside decided to stop. Patricia inhaled to pivot. Who wants pie? She chirped, voice too bright. I set my napkin on the table and stood. I'm going to step out, I said to her parents. Dinner was excellent. Thank you for having me. Patricia touched my arm. Please. You've been nothing but kind. I met Frank's eyes. And you, sir, make one solid grill. Frank nodded, jaw tight. We're glad you came, son. I looked at Emily. She didn't blink, but something in her face said, there it is. I thanked them again, picked up my keys, and walked to the door. I didn't look at Maya. If she wanted an audience for that line, she'd have to be her own. The door closed behind me. I made it halfway down the walk when raised voices hit the glass. Emily's voice, sharp, cutting through. You really said that? To his face? You realize what kind of man you just shoved away? I got to my car and leaned on the roof. The porch light spilled onto the lawn, and in 2 beats the door flew open. Emily jogged out, grabbed my sleeve at the curb. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Home," I said. "Then I'll figure out the rest. I'm not letting you drive around alone right now." She squared up like a stubborn referee. "How about you and I go somewhere quiet? Or loud? Your call." "We shouldn't," I began. "We should," she insisted. "I'm not leaving you to chew that alone. Also, I need a break from her tonight before I say something Mom can't unhear." I hesitated, then unlocked the car. "Fine. Dinner then coffee. Neutral ground." She smiled like she'd already decided the route. "There's a diner off Route 8 that makes pancakes at midnight." You sold me at pancakes. We drove with the windows cracked. She didn't try to talk me into feeling anything. We ordered at the counter, found a booth, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was auditioning for a part in my own life. We didn't talk about Maya. Not really. We talked about stupid camp jobs we'd had as teenagers, the one band we both pretended we didn't like, but knew every chorus to. The way you can tell a house is loved by the condition of the screws on the light switch covers. Emily has an engineer's brain disguised as a teacher's patience. She laughed at my dry lines and threw better ones back. After pancakes, there was coffee. After coffee, we walked 2 blocks and ate ice cream we didn't need. It felt like catching a breath at the top of the water. On the drive back to her parents' place, she was quiet until we turned onto their street. "Thank you," she said, "for letting me steal you." "You didn't steal anything," I replied. "You returned me to a working temperature." She unbuckled and leaned close, arms around my shoulders. It wasn't dramatic. It was steady. "Forget her. She doesn't see you. Choose the person who does," she whispered at my ear. "Choose me." I held her an extra second. "I already have," I said back, not loud. She pulled back, studied my face, and kissed my cheek. Then she hopped out and headed up the walk with a lightness I hadn't seen in months. I didn't go inside. I drove home, slept on the couch, and woke to Maya's text. "We need to talk." She was at the kitchen island when I came out of the shower, arms folded like a judge. "You seriously walked out on my parents?" she started. "I walked out on your sentence," I corrected. I opened the fridge, pulled water, didn't raise my voice. "Your parents were collateral." "It was a joke," she said. "You can't take a joke?" "Remind me which part was the joke. The part where you used your ex as a measuring stick at your mother's table, or the part where you said you'd leave if he called?" "You're twisting it," she snapped. "I didn't mean it literally. You meant it precisely." I set the bottle down. "You were sending a message." She pointed a finger at me. "You know what I see? You ran." A grown man doesn't run because his girlfriend makes one offhand comment. A grown man doesn't sit there like furniture while his girlfriend drags him through the old catalog, I answered. A grown man leaves a room where he's not respected. You embarrassed me. You embarrassed yourself. Your family saw it. You saw Emily follow me out? That wasn't theater. She scoffed. Emily's always had a thing for you. That's an excellent deflection, I said. We're not going to redirect this into her. She planted her hands on the counter. If you want to be with me, you need to apologize for storming out. You ruined the night. If there was ever a moment for a clean break, this was it. The difference between a stumble and a pattern is that a pattern comes with paperwork. She was presenting a demand like it was a moral debt. That told me everything. No, I said. No what? No apology, I clarified. No continuation. I'm done. She blinked. You're ending it because I made a joke? I'm ending it because your idea of partnership is an audience for your nostalgia. I won't do that part. You're being dramatic again. I'm being specific, I replied. You want something bigger? Go find it. I'm freeing your calendar. I walked past her, into the bedroom, pulled a duffel from the closet, and started folding shirts. She followed. This is ridiculous. We had one awkward dinner. We had a string of distance, then a public dismissal, then a demand that I fix your mood by apologizing for not eating pie after you try to make me disappear, I said, zipping the bag. I don't fix that. She softened for the second time, changing gears so fast it almost worked. Okay, she said, tone lowered. I was out of line. I'm sorry you felt that way. Nope, I said without heat. That's not an apology. That's a weather report. Her eyes went glassy, but there were no tears. It was calculus. How much softness would detour me? You're really leaving? She asked. Yes, I said. I packed an overnight bag last month when you started staring past me. It's in the trunk. She stepped aside, then called after me. If you crawl back, bring flowers and a speech. You'll need both. I paused at the doorway. If I crawl anywhere, check for a head injury. Otherwise, don't wait up. Then I left. My best friend Nate had told me once, if you ever need a couch, my place has one and it doesn't judge. He opened the door on Sunday with a mug in hand. You look like you need eggs and silence, he said. Silence first, eggs later. I answered, dropping the duffel by the armchair. He waited me out for an hour, then asked, you sure? Yes. I'm not running on bluff. I'm done, I told him. Line crossed. He nodded. Proud of you. Also, my couch payment is one game of cards later. Done. I spent 2 nights at Nate's, then spent Tuesday touring rentals. I signed a lease on a small Craftsman on the west side with a narrow porch and a mature maple. I moved the essentials in a single afternoon: tools, clothes, coffee maker, the bench I built. I texted Maya a photo of the keys on the new counter with 2 lines, lease signed. I'll send for the rest of my stuff. Leave it by the door. No argument. No visit. That evening, I sent Emily a message. Housewarming dinner Friday. You in? She texted back a yes and a dancing emoji I didn't know how to interpret. So I decided to pretend it meant bring candles. Friday I cooked simple: roast chicken with lemon, roasted carrots, and a bowl of rice pilaf because I'm not a monster. I put 2 plates on the small dining table, lit those candles, and put on a soft playlist with instruments, but no lyrics. Emily arrived at 7 with a plant in a clay pot. For your porch, she said. So the bench has company. I stood there, looking at her in the doorway of my new place, and something clicked into place. Not a fireworks moment. Just a correct gear engaging. Come in, I told her. I hope you're okay with chicken. I'm okay with everything I smelled in your driveway, she said. Thank you for inviting me. We ate. We talked like we had at the diner. Easy, not pretending. After dinner, we watched a quiet movie, the kind where the plot is mostly people learning how to be honest without making speeches. She curled against me on the couch like she belonged there. No drama. It was the closest I'd felt to solid ground in a while. Around midnight, she looked at the plant on the coffee table. I brought you something living so you'd have to stick around and water it, she said. I already planned to stick around, I replied. But I appreciate the accountability. You're different tonight, she said. Lighter. I left a room where respect was optional, I told her. Turns out, air is easier to breathe when you don't have to negotiate it. She rested her head at my shoulder. Good. We didn't talk about labels. We just let the night in when it did. I drove her home at 1, walked her to the porch. She wrapped her arms around me and stayed there. Thank you for this, she said. For making a place feel like a place. Stay as long as you want next time, I said. I plan to, she answered, kissed my cheek, and went inside with a smile that brought back the porch light. I drove away feeling the kind of quiet that doesn't need permission. I cut contact with Maya. No unblocked windows for arguments, no orbit. I told Nate. If she calls you, wish her a good day and hang up. I told Luis. If she asks about me at the shop, I moved to the moon. I told myself. You honored your part until there was no part left to honor. 2 weeks into the new routine, work, the porch, dinners with Emily, occasional beers with Nate, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I answered because sometimes life hides surprises in plain digits. Maya's voice came through sharp. You changed your number? No. You did. Whatever. I need money for rent, she said. The first is in 2 days. You left me with a responsibility. I set the phone on speaker and kept sanding the edge of a shelf I was finishing because I enjoy efficiency. You need money for a place I don't live in, I said. You owe it. We signed the lease together. I've already spoken to the landlord, I told her. I'm off the renewal next month. Until then, I'll cover the exact number we agreed on when we were together. After that, I'm gone. Legally and otherwise. You can't just walk away, she said. I did, I answered. And I did you the courtesy of not itemizing why. You're going to make me beg? I'm going to point you to the person you said was the solution to your life at your mother's table, I said, sandpaper hissing softly. Maybe he's got a fund for nostalgia. You're really going to be petty like this? Petty would be keeping score on the little things. I'm talking about the big one, I replied. Respect. You put it on the table and asked everyone to watch you drop it. That has an invoice. You're a jerk, she snapped. And you're out of luck with me, I said. Call whoever you want. I'm not your bank. I'll tell everyone you left me stranded, she fired back. Tell them I brought flowers to your mother, then paid my share on the way out, I said. The rest is your narrative problem. She launched into a string of words that were all heat and no light. I pressed end and blocked the number. Then I wiped the shelf with a cloth and kept moving. Emily texted 10 minutes later. She just had a meltdown at Mom's. You okay? Better than okay, I wrote back. Want to help me pick out a rug tomorrow? Absolutely, she replied. Also, your plant needs water. You're just looking for any excuse to come over, I shot back. Guilty, she wrote. See you at noon. We built days out of small things after that. Morning coffee at the counter. Runs to the hardware store for screws and anchors. Dinner on the porch, simple meals, conversation that didn't need editing. I taught her the trick where you rub a stuck jar lid with a rubber band for grip. She taught me the trick where you breathe before you answer the phone, just in case it's news and not a conversation. We fit. On a Thursday, I found myself at a jeweler's counter, looking at simple rings. Nothing flashy. A clean band with a stone that didn't scream. The woman behind the counter asked if there was a timeline. No rush, I said. Soon enough that the question doesn't feel overdue. Late enough that it sounds like I've thought it through. Sounds like you have, she said, and slid a small box across for me to look at later at home. I took it and didn't open it until that night, sitting alone at the table. It felt right. I didn't call Maya. I didn't run an update by anyone. I stayed on track. A week later, Emily stood in my kitchen, spooning sauce over pasta, and looked around like the place had absorbed her shape. This house suits you, she said. It suits us, I answered. You sure? She asked, teasing the word, but serious underneath. Yeah, I said. I'm sure about the house, and the bench, and you. I'm sure about not being an extra in my own life. She leaned on the counter, chin propped on her fist. You going to give me a speech now? Absolutely not, I said. I retired speeches the day I moved out. Good, she said. I like action. I took the small box from the drawer and set it between us without opening it. Her eyes widened. You're fast, she said, almost whispering. I'm decisive, I corrected. That's different. We can take all the time in the world. But I wanted you to know I'm not wandering. Her voice was barely there. Okay, we'll do this right, I told her. No stage. No audience. Just the two of us on the porch when we feel like it. She reached across, palm over mine, the box under our hands. Deal. That night we ate at the table, watched another quiet movie, and fell asleep on the couch like a contested territory finally signed. I didn't need to narrate the change. It was obvious from the way the house felt inhabited instead of occupied. Days turned into weeks. I kept my work steady, added a client, fixed a faulty stair tread just to get acquainted with the house. Emily slipped her jackets into the closet one by one until half the hangers were hers. The landlord at the old place confirmed my release and later texted that Maya had moved to a smaller unit on the other side of town. I didn't respond. Emily told me, once, in a few spare words, that Maya's old friend group heard her side and then went quiet. That was their problem to solve. On a Saturday morning, Nate dropped by with a folding chair and a grin. Heard you turned domestic, he said. I turned intentional, I answered. There's a difference. House looks good. You look rested, he said. You know, a lot of guys would have banged on the table and demanded a trial. I'm not a prosecutor, I told him. I'm a man with a calendar and a moving truck. He laughed. There it is. We sat on the porch and watched a couple jog by with a dog that had more energy than common sense. Emily stepped out with 3 mugs. Refills? She asked. Yes, ma'am, Nate said. I like this version of my friend. So do I, Emily said, not taking her eyes off me. That afternoon, I put the small box back in the drawer. Not because I was hesitating, because I was waiting for a moment that belonged to us. Not to a story arc. I had the luxury now of picking my timing without anyone rewriting the script mid-scene. Maya tried me twice more from different numbers. Both calls rang once and went away because that's how I said it. The first voicemail was a complaint dressed like a question. The second was a sigh dressed like sorrow. I didn't listen to either all the way through. I took the high road, but I wasn't taking detours. If you asked me what the lesson was, I'd put it this way. There's a threshold where trying becomes appeasing, And after that, you're just training someone to treat you like furniture with feelings. I don't do that anymore. I don't perform for the hope of being kept. I draw a line and defend it with logistics. On a quiet evening, weeks later, Emily and I ate on the porch. The air was clean, the maple steady, the world charmed in a small, earned way. She set her fork down and looked at me like she was reading a blueprint and finally understood how the beams fit. "You're not going back, are you?" she asked, not because she doubted, but because she wanted to hear me say it. "Emily," I said, and it came out like a verdict, not a promise. "I don't go back to rooms where I'm a prop. I go forward." She smiled. "Good." I raised my glass. "To forward." She touched hers to mine. "To forward." And that was that. I didn't return to Maya's text threads, or her kitchen, or her guesswork. I returned to my house, my porch, my work, my friends, and a woman who meets me at eye level. Maya kept her distance, from necessity or choice. I didn't care to know. I heard, secondhand, she was splitting a place with a coworker and selling off furniture for cash. I wished her clarity from the other side of that hill and went on with my week. Some men think the win is to stay and fix. Sometimes it is. For me, the win was to leave before I had to apologize for wanting oxygen. The last thing Maya said to me was an order packaged as prophecy. Bring flowers, bring words. I brought neither. I brought silence, empty hangers, and the soft slam of a door closing on a game I didn't agree to play. My last words, the only ones that mattered, were to Emily on a calm night when the lights were low and the house held its breath just long enough for me to catch mine. "This is home." And it was.